you know that I've been doing lots of thinking. I've been trying not to figure it out. But there's a certain kind of music, hey, got to make you jump and shout.
Well, my guest today is one of the innovators of this thing we call rock and roll, a musical genius who changed the shape and sound of the music we listen to today. Edgar Winter, so glad to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Today.
Are you ready to rock and roll?
You are, man. You're great. Now let's go back to the beginning.
All right.
Beaumont, Texas, right? That's where you're from?
That's correct.
A lot of strange and wonderful things come out of Texas. How do you think that shaped you musically?
Well said.
Well, Texas to the rest of us is kind of like the United States, but not exactly. It's like its own little country down there.
Yeah.
And the music,
the rugged individualist.
right? And the
Where
music
the
comes out
cowboys.
as great.
Yeah.
But how do you think that shaped you? So, like, let's say if you had grown up in Vermont, would we be talking to lounge singer Edgar Winter?
I seriously doubt it.
Okay.
Yeah, Texas. I didn't fully appreciate the how different it was until I moved away, and there are real cowboys. There's real country music. There are real black guys singing real blues. It's on the Mexican border, so there's hot Latin rhythm. It's right on the Louisiana border. So there's all of what we used to call swamp music, Zydeco, all the New Orleans stuff, Dr. John, Allen Toussaint, all that New Orleans sound. And then there's North Texas, which is a great jazz school. So you've got an infusion of really amazing jazz players. So it's like this melting pot of all these different styles. But the main thing about Texas is that when I moved to New York, I thought, wow, it's so exciting, the best musicians in the world. But there's nothing that you can point to as a New York sound.
Okay.
Whereas in Texas, the music was passed down from generation to generation. My dad showed Johnny and me our first chords on ukulele. That's when we started out, 6 years old. And my mom played beautiful classical piano. My father played guitar and banjo, played alto sax in a swing band in his youth. And, that's how we started out.
And you were a child prodigy. I mean, the music came as natural as breathing to you. I mean, multi-instrumentalist, all that stuff. Was there ever any consideration to a career other than music?
No.
Never.
Although I didn't really realize that I was going to have a career in music. I started playing, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. But when Johnny just took off, and it was like just skyrocketed, from obscurity into being the new hot flash Texas guitar, guitar slinger.
Yeah.
He was. It was really amazing.
Was there ever any concern that there wouldn't be room for two at the top? I mean, your brother's making it big. Are they going to want another one?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Move over, brother.
But I remember, when coming to New York, Johnny introduced me to his manager, Steve, who then introduced me to Clive Davis, who was the president of CBS
Records,
at that time. And as they say, the rest is history.
Well,
but I used to come out when we first started playing together, and nobody knew Johnny had a brother. And he'd do the first part of his set with the blues trio and say, "Now I'm going to bring on my little brother Edgar." And I'd come out, "Wow, there's two of them."
Oh, man.
And
blowing my mind.
then,
that's awesome.
And that was actually how I came to write the riff to what later became Frankenstein. So this segues into that story. But I just came up with that riff. I said, I said, that's a cool bluesy kind of walk-on riff. And we used to call it the double drum song because I played Hammond B3 organ and alto sax, and then we had two sets of drums on stage, and I did a dual drum solo. And, it was just a sort of a showcase instrumental And
Awesome.
then years later, when the synthesizer was invented, I thought, oh yeah, I'll bet that old double drum song would sound cool.
I bet it would.
You know, with that subsonic reinforced.
Well, let's back up a little bit. You were already an established working musician with a couple of albums under your belt before the whole Frankenstein Freeride thing.
Yes.
So
I had done my first album, Entrance, which was a very eclectic, like a synthesis of blues, jazz, rock, and then I did White Trash. I did both White Trash albums, White Trash and the Roadwork album.
But then when Frankenstein and Freeride hit, it must have been being like struck by lightning. Suddenly the whole world was listening to your music. Was that a strange sensation? Pros and cons of that?
Well, it was really, in a sense, it was our plan. In other words, when I first started, I really wasn't interested that much in pop music, and I really thought of myself as a serious musician. Thankfully, I've gotten over that.
We appreciate that nonsense.
But Woodstock really changed my life. It changed my whole approach and attitude toward music. You know, the whole thing being set against the backdrop of civil rights and the peace movement, and there were people that were writing and playing songs that they really believed in, and up to that point, like, music for me had just been my own sort of private escape world, and I just loved music as a kid, and unlike Johnny, he was the one with the ambition. He had the dream of, you know, he watched Bandstand and read all the magazines, and he was Johnny Cool, Daddy Winter with the shades and the guitar.
Really?
And, like, I was the weird kid that played all the instruments, and so there wasn't any sibling rivalry in the sense I was perfectly content to have Johnny. He loved being the front man, and I enjoyed, like, working out all the parts and showing the guys what to play. So
but you did embrace the show aspect of show business at some point.
Well, I really got off the topic here. We were talking about the difference between the Edgar Winter group, and that. When I did my first album, Entrance, I had no commercial intentions with regard to that. It was an experimental album and when I decided to form White Trash, I went all over the world looking, you know, for musicians, and that was when I realized how special the music in Texas was, and I ended up going back to Texas and getting the old guys that I played with in my formative years, and it was really like a reunion of our old high school band. But when I put together the Edgar Winter group, that was when I did a massive talent search, and it wanted to be, the whole idea was the quintessential all-American rock band, and you know, when I found Dan Hartman, he was the first person who I enlisted, and like thousands of demo tapes were sent into the office, and when I heard Dan's music, I said, this guy's fabulous. He's an amazing talent. But that was the whole idea of the band, is that it would be an all-star band, and you know, any of the guys in the band could have. But you know, we were hoping for and anticipating success with it. You know,
a lot of people make that plan and it doesn't happen.
And it doesn't happen.
So you started out as a musical genius, and then added the element of show business and flash. You were the first guy to put the strap on the keyboard and carry it around.
Yes.
So now rock and roll bears a lot of responsibility for that whole image over substance thing. You know, especially during like the punk era. I'm thinking where it was more important to have the right haircut than to be able to play your instrument. What sort of advice do you give to young people in these days of auto-tune and backing tapes?
Well, my major concern has always been with the level of musicianship. You know, really having quality musicians, the integrity of the music, and just the pure joy of playing good music.
Okay.
And that's what it has always been about for me. But as far as advice to young people, it would have to be to play the music that really means something to you. The music that you feel in your heart. In other words, trying to be successful, trying to be commercial, that's like an ulterior motive. And I think that a perfect example of that is the song Frankenstein, because it was a song that we never intended to record, that we worked up as a live showpiece, to feature the synthesizer, because I had gotten the idea of putting a strap on the keyboard, and we were looking for a song, to display the synthesizer, and so we came and we just called it the instrumental, and we never thought of recording it, and we thought it has nothing to do with the direction of the band, and so it was just a song for fun. Okay. That's the point I'm making.
Okay.
And we thought, well, Free Ride is going to be the big hit. We released Free Ride. It didn't go anywhere. And then we released 3 or 4 other singles. And then Frankenstein was the B-side of, I think, Hanging Around or some other song. Okay. And it was just a song that we played for fun, that almost didn't even end up on the album.
Crazy.
So play the songs that you really like.
Yeah. Now, I had the extreme pleasure of talking to your brother Johnny a few years ago, and I had asked him about the worst hell gig he ever had that has become a fond memory. He shared a great story with us.
Boy.
Now, do you have one that stands out? You've played all over the world, all kinds of places, nice places and otherwise. Do you have something that at the time was maybe a nightmare and has since become a funny memory?
I guess the closest I can come to that is when we recorded Roadwork. We did part of that at the Whiskey in L.A.
Right.
and part of it at the Apollo Theater.
Oh, wow.
And we were the second band, white band, to play the Apollo. Buddy Holly, I think, being the first, another Texan.
Wow.
So we were terrified, but I, as a kid, remember, driving in our car, James Brown and the Famous Flames, live from the Apollo Theater, and they had the thing, like, if they didn't like you, you'd get the hook.
Right. Oh, my God.
And I didn't realize this, but that band, White Trash, like, that music was being played on black radio stations, and people thought that it was a black band.
Nice.
And and they didn't actually believe that, there were people that were like trying to get their money back and stuff.
Oh, that's so funny.
Saying, this is
Who are these guys?
White Trash.
God.
This is not,
That's
but
crazy.
At that particular show, I had these new clothes, and I had this sort of multicolored, sort of stretchy material shirt, and as I started to sweat, it started to shrink, and the button, the snap started to snap open. Then I bent over to get the synthesizer, and my pants split completely up the crotch and the back. So they were just hanging by a thread, and here's my shirt shrunken up, and I'm here and I'm trying to record the album, and I thought, well, I hope my pants don't fall down. But it all worked out, and finally, they loved the band, and it really it was a great
you won them over. Well, I'm not going to keep you much longer. I mentioned that you are one of the architects of this thing called rock and roll. The important thing is you're still out there on the road doing it a lot.
You'll never hear Edgar Winter talking about a farewell tour.
Really? Okay.
I'm in it to the end.
Okay. What keeps you going? Is it still as exciting to you?
I love music, and I've never been able to understand why people who love classical can't appreciate rock and roll, or why people who love country can't dig jazz. To me, it's all equally valid musical forms, and the reason that I still have such a love for music is because I pretty much play whatever I want, and I've always tried. Our last CD was called Rebel Road, and I've always thought of myself as something of a musical rebel, that I never wanted to be categorized. My brother Johnny loved the blues, and I so much love and respect him, for that. But he was really he loved the traditional blues, country style acoustic blues, and I loved I gravitated more toward the urban style, like people like B.B. King and Ray Charles and Blood, Sweat and Tears, Chicago, those the horn bands. But I still love music because I've never been like a lot of classic rock artists that are, they feel like they're forced to play their old material, you know, and they're whining and complaining, oh, they play the same old song. Well, don't, stay home.
Right.
If you don't want to play.
Right.
I love to play, and I'm going to do it, you know, till the day I die. So.
Well, get yourself out and get a ticket to see this guy. You owe it to yourself. Edgar Winter, we can't thank you enough for the music. Keep on doing what you
You're
keep playing that rock
welcome,
and roll
Mike.
the coin of
You
praise.
know it.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right. Keep on rocking. Hey, this is Edgar Winter, and you're watching BABBLE TV.